Today we're looking at essential tools that every cyclist needs, from beginner to advanced, and Scott here is a pro bike mechanic going to talk us through some of the tools we all need. So Scott, what's the most essential tool that every cyclist can't live without?
Right, I would go for Allen keys. From budget to high-end bikes, everyone is pretty much running Allen keys. There's very few bikes that don't. So good set of multi-tool Allen keys. That's running from 1.5mm up to 6. You can get them with different variations, but yeah, generally. And you'll be sort of between £15–20 for a good set.
So you fix most of the basic?
Most basic stuff, yeah. You can do your headset adjustments, gear adjustments, brake adjustments, pretty much everything, sort of, yeah.
Handlebar, seat post, saddle.
Yeah, you get it roughly and then obviously finish tour inches afterwards, but we'll come to that.
And then moving from that up to...
Go on to screwdriver. Obviously not too much now, but you're still looking at limit screws on the front and rear derailleurs. On the newer stuff, using Allen keys again, which takes you to the set. But yeah, just a Phillips number 2 and that'll do you good.
Right, we've got a few tools on the workbench here. What's next up?
Chain checker. Vary in price again. You can get them from sort of £5–6 all the way up to however much you want to spend really. Couple of base ones will just be a metal plate which you drop in and it will give you an indication of wear on your chain. Obviously if you get to a certain point, usually 0.5 to 0.75, then replace chain before everything else wears out. And then you get ones, it's elongated slot, so that will sit in and that will give you, if you can get in on that, it gives you a more accurate reading.
And how often should somebody check the chain at home with a tool like that?
Checking chain depends on use. There's lots of variants, conditions. Your gear changes, are you a heavy gear changer or do you change smoothly? All contributes to wear and how you look after your chain as well. But even if you just drop a chainway checker on monthly just to keep an eye on it, you'll then get a rough sort of estimate of when you're going to need to replace your chain.
And I guess it's saving money in the long run as well, isn't it?
A lot of money in the long run, yeah. And it doesn't hurt. I'd imagine that any bike shop, if you haven't got one of these, will check your chain for you free of charge because it takes 10 seconds to do.
Okay.
And it will, save you money on, if you go too far, you'll be changing your chain, your cassette, possibly your chain rings. You could be in for £1,000 on a drive on top end. But yeah, long run it'll save you. And if you replace the chain before it gets to a certain point of wear, you'll prolong the life for the rest of the drive, and you'll get better gear changes, like by far.
So yeah, no brainer really.
No brainer at all. One of the tools. It's the first tool I put on a bike when the bike comes into the shop, and it gives you a very good indication of the bike's life essentially.
Okay.
Because if the chain is completely worn out, then the bike's going to be worn out. Visibly, the customer can see you do that. They can see it then. It's not just taking your word for it essentially. But yeah, brilliant little tools.
So a chain tells you a lot about a bike.
Yes, indeed.
An insight into how it's been looked after or not. So chain wear, I guess. Next up is
and then you go on to if you need to replace the chain, quick link pliers, slightly dirty as you can see, had a bit of use. If your chain currently has a quick link, you can literally push those into the chain, push them together. It splits the link nice and easy, chain comes off. And for refitting on some chains, they're really tight, back in, because it's double-ended, pull them apart. Very quick and easy to use. Not the cheapest tool though.
It's not?
No, you're looking sort of £15 upwards.
Okay. And quick links, are they're different with, some are reusable, some aren't reusable?
It's interesting actually when I go and order SRAM ones, because some of them are called power links, some are called power locks. And the locks they don't want you to reuse, the links they do. And then Shimano, they say sort of one-time use. If you do keep reusing them, you can actually feel them as you're undoing them, getting slacker and slacker and slacker to the point where they could break. Okay. And obviously Campag like specific pins, but they're now started using
links as well.
So
I guess follow the manufacturer recommendations.
Yeah, always I would say, especially with chain, because if it's under load and that snaps, you end up going over the bars, have an accident. And you've been working on your own bike, you can't really blame the manufacturers.
Okay.
Then we go to standard chain tool, the original Park CT3. Lots of variations with these, and with newer tools, with newer chains going forward. up to 13 speed, they're requiring different tools as well now, generally for the thickness between the pins there.
And that's for installing a new chain, cutting it down to
Cutting
right
it down
length.
to the correct size. With everything on links now, you're literally just cutting that down to size and then using the links. Whereas when I originally got this, like 20 plus years ago, you'd be refitting the links with this. Hence why it's got a second set of guides there.
Okay.
Would be to eliminate stiff links, because you just push that pin quarter of a turn just to take the stiffness out of the link.
So that tool is 20 years old.
Yeah.
So that shows the investment in
Yeah.
good tools. They're still working.
Replaceable pins in these. They come in a pack of a couple. You can see the use on it. But yeah, it's done well. Look after the tools and they'll look after you, essentially. Then, slight twist on things. We've got these Allen keys here, 6 and an 8 mil. Pedals, essentially easier to hold on to, more leverage. I generally have got a bike in the stand if I'm taking pedals off, so I can pull up. But if you are going away, or take your pedals off, if you've got Garmin pedals or something like that, where you're switching from bike to bike, brilliant. No, Garmin pedals are using a 15 mil spanner. But yeah, if you're going away and you need to take pedals off, brilliant.
And easier than using a multi-tool, I guess. You've got more leverage.
A lot easier, yeah. You can see on this, yeah, I'm literally, hands, I can only undo, well, I know that I can only do these up to sort of 13 Newton meters. I've tested that with torque wrenches and what I can physically do them up with.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting story, that one. Whereas these, you'll get to sort of 20, 25 Newton meters. And it's comfortable. You're not going to slip. It's nice and close when it's into the pedal.
So 6 and 8. That
6 and 8, yeah,
pedals.
yeah. Most of the pedals nowadays are 8 mil. As you go down the range, I think some of the Shimano, like the 500s below 105, they are running a 6, but they're also running a 15 mil, pedal spanner as well. Mm-hmm. And then we put these with the disc tools. So if you are removing pedals to, say, go on holiday, you'll be taking your wheels off. You want to be putting these pad spacers. Lots of different sizes. Generally will come with a new bike. You might have found them in a little packet and wondered what they were. They would go up in between the pads to stop your pads advancing if the levers get pulled. And if they do get pulled, then you would end up needing a pad spreader, which is slightly bent, because I use it for aligning pistons as well.
That's not meant to be bent.
It's not meant to be bent, no.
So that's if your pads have
If your pads have advanced,
come out of the piston a bit,
if they come too far,
and you can't get your wheel back in.
and you can't get your wheel back in, that would basically go up in between the pads. Give them a little tweak. Don't use a screwdriver.
Noted.
We go to this dirty screwdriver. If the screwdriver was in the pads and you started doing that, you're going to end up taking chunks out of the pads.
And pads aren't cheap, are they?
They're not cheap, no, and they're going up in price as well, pads.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. So a pad spreader in there, it's essentially part of a disc rotor. Or if you've got an old spare disc rotor that's clean, it's the other thing, make sure it's clean, because you can contaminate your pads by putting that in there if it's not clean. And then you can, reset your pistons.
And I guess, like say, going on a holiday, or even just taking the wheels out in the back of the car, going to sporty, get the car park, cut your wheel back in, panic
or
before a race.
One of your mates pulls your levers while you stood there with your wheel out. Yeah,
They're not mates.
Not anymore. That's always been done. But yeah, this is a cool little tool.
And the last one I recognise.
Yep.
Because disc rotors are surprisingly easy to bend, aren't they?
Yes. So if you get a new bike and your rotors are bent, you can see down through the caliper, and if it's catching on the one side, you can literally use that slot. We'll call the pad spreader disc rotor. You can slide it on, and you can give it a little bend, a tiny bit at a time. If you go too far, you're going to bend it all the way about like that.
All right. So
yeah,
very
small and often.
That's probably worth another video one day, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It can be a very tricky thing to do. It takes a bit of practice to get the right amount of pressure, knowing how far it's going to go until it's straight. And I've just straightened my tool out.
So Scott, we're now on to slightly more specialist advanced tools.
Yeah, if say for instance you're looking at replacing gear cables, that sort of thing, you're going to need a good set of cutters. I'm going to say this, and it's going to be a bit cheesy. You can get some side cutters, but they just won't cut it. A good set of cutters, lots out there. Park, Bursman, Topeak. They will slice through anything, and they will last you years. So long as you don't go crazy and start cutting spokes and stuff like that, they'll last you a long time, and they're easy to cut with as well.
So you cut and crimp and...
This one is cut in. Some of them will have crimps on. There's actually a little tool in the centre there to open up the cable if it gets compressed when it cuts. I generally will use a little pick, which is a couple of quid, which is cool for everything essentially. It's even good for taking bits out of tyres. And then if you do go through that and you're replacing cables, cable ties, things like that, these are flush cut pliers. Actually really cool. These are Lifeline ones, $9.99. You can get them on offer every now and again. In the centre, see if I can clean that bit, 2 little holes.
Oh yeah.
I use that to crimp the end tiders on, and they don't fall off. And it's literally one single indentation in the end tidy, and they fit brilliantly.
Nice.
One of my favourite little tools, that is.
And a bargain as well.
Bargain, yep. And then you go on to on the gear side of things. Chain whip, or I've got these chain pliers. I use chain whips for years, find them okay, but being in the workshop I want a bit of efficiency, and these are about the same sort of price as the chain whip, and it essentially spring loaded, will lock on, it will even tell you there 10 to 19 tough, so on the bottom of the cassette, and once that's locked into place you get your lock ring tool, which will be the next tool. This is Shimano one, Campag ones. Shimano one will work with SRAM as well. That would slot in, and then you just go against each other. You may see little horror stories about these slipping all the time. I've never had them slip, and they will hold onto the tightest of cassettes. I've had SRAM cassettes and known for being pretty tight, or I've had to have the lock ring tool on and a bar, and these have never moved. So these are go-to, and they're a bit tidier. You ain't got chain flying around everywhere trying to unwrap it. And I've had those in use in workshop for about 4 years, daily. So
I guess it's not a tool.
So if you've got that at home, it's going to last you for 10, 20 years.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, just small parts of chain on there. So if you do, break it, you can replace those bits of chain. Not a problem at all. And then we go on to hanger alignment, where you can spend an absolute fortune on tools, and this is a cheaper one. When you do get to use them, and you get used to knowing how they work.
So how often are mech hangers bent on bikes you service here, road and mountain?
Quite a lot, probably. I see a good sort of 30%, 25, 30%, a good quarter of them come in. And it's almost general practice now that when I'm doing a service and I've got a derailleur off, I just pop this on just to check the hanger alignment. It's only good practice really to align one once. You keep bending them, it's going to soften the material and weaken it. But yeah, you can get really expensive ones. They're still the same design, to be honest. And this is just easy use.
It looks quite complex.
And you do get, once that is threaded into the dropout, essentially go 12, 6, 3 and 9, and just check that is in the same position on the wheel. You do need to make sure your wheel's true before you use it, because otherwise it's going to give you a different reading. You can put a little O-ring on there if you need to. I generally will butt my finger up against it, turn it around, and use my finger. The finger's not going anywhere.
So that goes into you remove your rear mech, that bolts into the rear mech.
Bolts into the rear mech, and then you follow.
And that goes against the wheel.
This pin against the rim, all the way around essentially. I usually check sort of 4 points, then it will tell you where it's out, what position it's bent. It could be bent inwards, outwards, or horizontally as well.
I guess if you do a lot of travelling with your bike, whether like flying or in the back of a car, it can get bent quite easily. They're quite soft, aren't they?
Tricky one that, depending on where that mech is in a bike box or bag, sometimes it's good to take it off. If you are at the point of being able to use this, you can just take your mech off when you're flying. unless you do want to carry something like this around.
So quite expensive, but quite useful.
Yeah, they can be. You're looking, I'm not sure what they are nowadays, sort of £35–40 upwards. But you'd be paying that in a shop to get a gear set up and hanger alignment anyway.
And quite often gears out of alignment could be due to the mech hanger being bent.
Most of the time it's the hanger. Yeah, there are lots of other variants. You sort of limit screws and cable tensions as well. And the mechs themselves can be twisted. Some of the Shimano mountain bikes actually look what the cages are twisted, and that is how they come.
Okay, yeah.
There's been lots out there on forums going, my rear mech's bent, and it's not.
I guess with electronic gears being so reliable, they're not likely to go out of alignment.
Yes, that's a great thing with Di2. If your gears start going sloppy on Di2, it's either hanger alignment out or your chain's worn.
Okay.
You've got no chain, cable tension there. It's electronic. It's not just going to go out of indexing.
Yeah.
There's going to be a reason for that, and it'll either be chain wear or your hanger alignment.
Okay. And next up, we have some expensive looking tools. So this is the most advanced tool.
Go on to torque wrenches, and there's a couple of different types there.
So torque wrench, like most components on a bike, will have a torque rating.
Yes.
How important is it to follow the torque rating?
Nowadays, components are rated for torque. Back 20 years ago, it was the bolts rated for torque, and it would show in like the old Hope manuals from the early 2000s where they would just put a torque rating on the bolt itself. So like an M5 bolt would be 6 Newton meters, an M6 bolt would be 8 Newton meters. That was it. But now stems, seat posts, clamps, everything's got torque settings on, and it's generally always written on that component as well. And it is because components are getting lighter. Is it a reliability thing? It's so they're saving components with torque settings essentially, and they are a maximum, not a target, is what I would say. It always, most of the time it'll say max 6, say for instance. Doesn't mean you have to hang it at 6. If it's solid at 5.5, it's absolutely fine. And there are a couple of different. You generally will get smaller torque. So this will go from 1.5 to 15, and then bigger torque wrenches would go say sort of 10 to 80, around sort of there. I have got lucky with the Topeak one, does go 4 to 80, so that basically covers everything.
What's the highest torque setting on a bike these days?
I would go with top of my head, new SRAM cranks, 54 Newton meters.
54?
Yeah.
But most bolts
are a nightmare to undo.
I bet, yeah. That's a lot of force.
They actually get tighter to the point where you need a bar to take them off. And sort of lowest, what are we looking at, sort of lowest? You're probably
4 or 5?
No, you're a lot lower than that.
Really?
Yeah, you get, I think, some clamp bolts and dropper cable levers are probably down to sort of 2 or 3.
You're barely breathing on it at that point.
I've seen stuff lower and I can't remember what it is. We'll come back to you on that one.
I guess for most, if you're changing like stems and stuff like that, or seat post heights, a simple tool like this, it probably all you need.
That'll do good, yeah.
But if you're building a bike, you probably want a bigger one like that.
That's why I've got that one, because I mean, generally, this one will do pretty much everything on a bike, including Shimano cranks. But as soon as you go to a chain set, like an FSA, a Campag or a SRAM, you're going to need a bigger one. If it's got a chain set's got a single bolt, you'd be 40 Newton meters upwards. Whereas obviously Shimano, there it is. The preload bolt for Shimano cranks is like 1.7.
1.7?
And then,
the one on the end?
Yeah, and then like 12 to 15.
That's why it has a plastic tool?
Yes.
To stop you talking too much?
Literally nip it with your fingers, essentially.
Okay. So these look fairly pricey, but you can get these for a reason.
This is one of the original part ones. And I'm not sure what they are now, probably £100 plus, but you can get a smaller one, various brands out there, £50, £60. Treat it really, really carefully, don't drop it on the floor. Always wind it back off so the spring's not under tension, because as I wind that up, it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So always take it back down to 0. Don't drop it on the floor, place it nicely, look after your kit. Again, that one is probably about 15 years old.
It does look like it's had a lot of, like the blue, they've worn off.
Yeah, it's completely worn off, yeah.
And this one looks...
The Topeak one I bought when I opened the shop a year ago. Yeah. This one is digital as well. So I can literally
Is that real carbon though?
turn it on now
That's nasty.
and digitally. And I'm going to see if I can get this right down as well and see if I can. Oh.
So 4, so low as it goes.
There we go. And as soon as I hit torque, this one beeps at me and it'll automatically.
Okay.
Yes, very cool tool.
What does that cost though?
I think I got it for just shy of £200.
But an essential tool for pro
But
bike
yeah, it's
mechanic.
needed, yeah. And turn it on, set it up, and then you can just put it back in its case and leave it, and it will, turn itself off. Really, really good tool, but it's an investment. This one obviously will just click as it gets to torque. So yeah, a couple of different types there.
It almost seems like,
But definitely investment, because you can doing the stem up or whatever, you can go to your normal Allen keys, 4mm, nip her up, and then check with a torque wrench afterwards, and it's bang on, it's not going to go anywhere, and it's safe essentially. Whereas if you just start swinging on the Allen keys, like I say, I can get to about 13 Newton meters on that, which I'm not going to do on the stem. So yeah, always double check the torques.
right, there we go. Some essential tool advice from beginner to advanced. Everything you need, whether you're just doing basic jobs on your bike or you're doing more complex jobs. Big thanks to Scott for sharing his expertise and advice. I'll put a link to his website down below. If you need a bike service or any work doing on your bike, he's a man to come and speak to. And do let us know what tools you can't live without by leaving a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what tools you think are essential. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you again very soon.